Good afternoon and welcome. The League of Women Voters of Sacramento County and Metro Cable Channel 14 are pleased to bring you this forum featuring candidates for Sacramento City Council District Number 3, running for the June 8th primary election. And District 3 includes Midtown, East Sacramento, and portions of North Sacramento. My name is Suzanne Finney. I'm a member of the Sacramento County League of Women Voters and the moderator for this forum. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization of men and women that encourages citizens to be informed and to participate in government at all levels. The League does not support or oppose any candidate or political party. Rather, the League provides information and moderates candidate forums such as this to help voters learn about candidates, issues, and to make informed choices at the polls. This forum is being viewed live by an audience in the Sacramento Board of Supervisors chambers and by viewers at home. It is also being taped for rebroadcast on Metro Cable Channel 14. The format for today's forum will be as follows. Each candidate will make a 1.5-minute opening statement. Next, the candidates will respond to questions from our panel. The questions were submitted by the panelists and reviewed by League members. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to the question, and all candidates will respond to each question. Finally, the candidates will have 1 minute to make a closing statement. Now I'm pleased to introduce the candidates for Sacramento City Council District 3. And to my right is, I should find my little list, Jeff Rainforth. And to my immediate right is Chris Little. To my immediate left, Sean Eldridge, and to my far left, Steve Cohn. Thank you for being here today. Now I'd like to introduce our panelists. We have Cosmo Garvin with the Sacramento News and Review, Jim Cox with Sacramento State University, and Pia Lopez of the Sacramento Bee. And thank you very much for being here today. And with that, we will now start our opening statements. The candidates have drawn straws for the order that they will proceed, and so we'll start with the opening statement from Jeff Rainforth.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jeff Rainforth. I'm running for City Council seat, District 3. A little background on me. I'm a former candidate for governor and United States Congress, former chairman of a political reform organization, and I work for Best Buy's Competitive Strategies Group. I'm also the founder of Midtown Ultimate in Sports. We field teams to the local Ultimate Frisbee League in Sacramento. I believe most of the questions you're going to hear today are probably have to do with money, as the city has a serious budget shortfall this year. We are cutting funding for services and city employees to make up for the shortfall. The city gets most of its revenue from sales and property taxes. This means that the more people who are out of work and not buying homes and spending, the less money there is coming in to spend on parks, roads, police, and fire protection. Our unemployment rate is at 12.8% in the region. We are tied for 6th in Forbes' list of cities in economic freefall. If we want the money to spend on parks, roads, schools, and fire and police, we have to attract employers to Sacramento. There are cities in the United States whose unemployment numbers are half that of Sacramento's. Oklahoma City is one of them. Their cities are not making budget cuts. Their parks, roads, and schools are being funded. If I am elected, this will be my primary focus, putting people back to work so we have the money to spend on the goods and service we expect the city to provide. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next opening statement will be provided by Chris Little.
Thank you, and thank you for watching today. And thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this opportunity for me and for my opponents to share our ideas with you. I am Chris Little, and I want to be your next council member. I'm the new guy. I'm the only one who has never run for political office, and I'm not an incumbent. I'm a third-generation Sacramentan, born and raised in the district. I bring a lifelong commitment to community service with community organizations as diverse as the American River Parkway Advisory Committee, the Sacramento Food Bank's Run to Feed the Hungry Committee, the East Sacramento Chamber of Commerce, the Active 2030 Club, Rotary, and many more. I've been walking the neighborhoods and listening to voters around the district for months, and I know our city is struggling. You, the voters, want action to protect our neighborhoods, our parks, our natural resources, and more. We need fresh ideas and common sense solutions to get it back on track. I have the skills and experience as an independent business owner and community volunteer to bring people together to find focused, common-sense solutions to our problems. I look forward to answering questions and to earning your vote to be your next council member. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next opening statement will be provided by Sean Eldridge.
Thank you, and thank you for writing this forum and League of Women Voters, et cetera. My name is Sean Eldridge. I've been in the city of Sacramento for 13 years. I've grown up in the county. I have a 20-year-old daughter who is away in a college that I can't afford. I'm a small business advocate. That's truly my passion in the city. Those at City Hall and City Council are familiar with me being in front of them advocating for small business owners. It's obvious that as we look at other cities throughout the state, the nation around us, that Sacramento is not a very business-friendly environment. So that is my passion and primary focus. At the same time, it's very simple. If we want the next Steve Jobs or any other entrepreneurs that are going to come to our city and bring us tax dollars and revenue to the general fund, we not only have to provide a business-friendly environment for them, we also have to provide a safe neighborhood for them to live in. We have to provide quality schools for their children to go to school. They have to want to live in our community. Most business adventures start with the idea that I'm going to get a return on my investment. If it's all about an ROI, then it's critical that we make it easy for them to spend their money here. We invite them here, because otherwise they're going to go to other cities. And it's obvious based on the results of the last 10 to 15 years that Roseville, Elk Grove, Folsom, et cetera, have done a much better job at recruiting business than we have. So small business is my passion. At the same time, I'm a father, I'm a resident, I'm a business owner, and I know what it takes to keep small entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final opening statement will be provided by Steve Cohn.
Thank you. I want to thank District 3 residents for giving me the opportunity to serve our city the last 16 years. I also work at SMUD, the top-rated utility in California. To me, City Council is about community service, not political career. Before council, I was president of my neighborhood association, coach of my kids' Little League and soccer teams, and volunteer in my wife's graffiti squad. Times were tough when I was elected in '94. Crime and utility rates were skyrocketing, neighborhood pools and playgrounds were closing. No new homes had been built in Midtown over 50 years, and its streets were raceways. North Sac neighborhoods were neglected. But by partnering with the community, we solved these problems and a great deal more. I started Pops in the Park evening concert series and Screen on the Green. We renovated every district park and created new ones. We expanded light rail and flood protection. Sacramento ranks first in California for bike commuting. Midtown has become a really cool place. Sac State is better connected to the community, and we've done this with balanced budgets, utility rate increases below inflation, and no new taxes. Now we face the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression. We're going to have to work together to realize our vision of Sacramento becoming the most livable city in America with a dynamic downtown and a green job center. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we move to the question and answer portion of our forum. So Cosmo, will you direct the first question to Chris Little, please?
Sure. I want to, as the weather's warming up here, I want to ask you guys about the second Saturday events and whether those that's become too successful, or if it's grown in such a way that it's created problems. And in a related question, I'm wondering if the city has, as some residents think, if the city has encouraged the location of bars and nightclubs in a way that's detrimental to the neighborhood.
Well, that's a good question. It's an interesting question because Second Saturday is a case of us doing something right in regards to bringing business into downtown and the Midtown area. It has become a bit of a creature of its own success, or a victim of its own success, in that it has exceeded perhaps all expectations. My concern is not so much with second Saturday, but the first Saturday and the third Saturday and the fourth Saturday and all the other days of the month that people aren't coming into downtown and into the Midtown area and bringing us that tax revenue that we so greatly need. So those are the areas that I would focus on, is trying to bring more people in on a regular basis into the downtown, Midtown area. I do feel that the bars and restaurants perhaps need to be looked at time-wise, maybe not staying open so late to the benefit of the neighborhoods that live right around it.
Thank you. Sean?
There was a lot in that question, Cosmo, so I'm going to do my best to address all the issues that you brought up there. First of all, Second Saturday is an organic entity. Many people have claimed responsibility for it. The reality is the energy that's been put out in the Arts and Culture Center of Midtown has created what it is, and it's been very popular not only with the Midtown folks, it's also been very popular with suburban folks that travel out to come to that event, and so we should be very proud that they're coming to our city to spend their money. And yes, there are issues that need to be mitigated from 5,000 and 6,000 and 7,000 people coming down to our city at one time. Parking, noise, litter, et cetera. Address the second question or second portion of that. I'm not going to touch Second Saturday. It's perfect the way it is, and as far as I'm concerned, the bigger it gets, the better. And as a city, we need to be able to mitigate those impacts greater. As far as the city had anything to do with where they go, the bars and restaurants went to Midtown because that was where they were. There was a natural synergy there, and that's wonderful. Could the city actually draw them into downtown where they maybe have a little less impact on the residents? Yes, they could.
Thank you. Steve?
Thank you. I think Second Saturday is probably one of our great successes in this region, so let's not complain about a great success, but clearly there are needs out there to do a better job with the neighbors in terms of mitigating nuisances, and we do that continuously. So I'm not concerned, really. I think we have the right thing in place to address that. And more importantly, I think Second Saturday is symbolic of what's happened in Midtown. We have a real renaissance, and it's used to show you what you can do when you make an exciting, interesting urban area walkable, livable. People want to come there. That wasn't the case 10, 15 years ago. And Sean's right. It's largely organic. A lot of people can take credit. But I'll tell you, the city did a good job of partnering there with the businesses and the residents, and I have been the council member there. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff?
Yeah, I live right in Midtown, right next to where Second Saturday goes across or down, and only problem I have with it is crossing guard. It takes a long time for us to get across the street when there's so many people and cars going down on Second Saturday. That's basically the only problem I have with it. Some cities actually close their streets and have markets, et cetera, and a lot more street vendors, et cetera, just like a street fair. We could look into that. We should look at like what Austin is doing. Austin, Texas has a music festival that brings in $100 million to the city every year. We can look at more events like this and copy what cities have done successfully. As for the bars and nightclubs, young people want the bars and nightclubs, and they are going to be replacing the workers who are retiring from the workforce in 2012 when the baby boomers start leaving, and there's going to be two people retiring for every one worker coming in, and young people are going to be an asset at that point. So I think we need to look at that also, helping bring young people to Sacramento, making it a city that they want to stay in, like by these cool events like Second Saturday. And
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Jim?
Sorry.
Can you direct your question to Sean, please?
Hi. The City Council is considering an ordinance to limit the number of medical marijuana dispensaries within the city limits. There's also been a proposal floated to tax these dispensaries as a way of generating revenue. Do you favor either one of these proposals?
I favor the taxing of anything that we can add a little more money to the general fund, obviously. At the same time, the medical marijuana issue has been handled poorly on a state level as well as on a city level. You now have 30-plus business owners out there who, they've got their lifeblood into this business. They've invested in this business. They're going there every day, and despite the nature of the business and whether or not we agree with that or not, now we're going to come back and close down over half, or we're proposing to close down over half of those businesses. And it's not the city's responsibility now to determine how many of those businesses should be there, despite the nature of the business. Obviously, I don't agree that there should have been 32 dispensaries in the city of Sacramento to begin with, and obviously we should have looked at that prior to this point. And now we're going to go back to these business owners and say, I'm sorry, you're going to have to close your doors. That's unacceptable behavior. It's not okay. It's not fair to those business owners, despite the nature of the business. And on that note, if medical marijuana is a medicine, it should probably be distributed by pharmacies.
Thank you. Steve?
Well, on the first question, which related to the ordinance, I've been on the city's Law and Legislation Committee trying to fashion the right mixture here, and what was proposed does not work, limiting to 12 without regard to where they are now and whether they're a problem. Plus, the 500-foot prohibition would mean you couldn't have any in Midtown, which makes no sense. There have been some in Midtown that have been very accepted in the neighborhood. So I want a little more flexible ordinance that will allow some of the ones who have been existing to continue to exist as long as they are not neighborhood nuisances. In terms of the tax, I do favor looking at that, but as I said in the B this morning, that can't be viewed as something where we're just going to try to raise revenue. It has to be they're paying their fair share. We don't want to have raising revenue a reason to bring in more marijuana clinics.
Thank you. And Jeff?
Yeah, I would say we should look at taxing them, and I believe, like Sean said, that this, if it's a medicine, it should be prescribed or given out by pharmacists. As for shutting some down, I know that there are people out there who, you know, will tell their doctor, I have an illness, I want marijuana. And are they, you know, are these people really sick? Do they really need it, or is it for personal use? And so I have a question about that. Do we really need it, that many? And I would question how many are out there who need it for medicinal purposes. So.
Thank you. And Chris?
Well, it's an interesting question. I understand the city's desire and the drive to focus on raising revenue through taxing virtually anything or that they can at this point to fill budget gaps. But in my view, medical marijuana is not really a city issue. It's a public health issue, and as such, it would fall under the county's responsibility as a public health issue, and I would like to see it handled by the county itself, and even bring those dispensaries into the fold through the county and their oversight, or if not consolidation into one location where people who need it medically can go get it for medical purposes.
Thank you. Pia, can you direct your question to Steve, please?
Okay. Steve, this race has drawn a crowded field, which is good for democracy during a tough time. What would you tell the voters is the strongest case for returning somebody who's been on the council for 16 years? And I'd also say to the challengers that question, why should there be change on this council when you have a strong 16-year incumbent? And why you as opposed to the others?
Well, the answer is going to depend on which 16-year incumbent you're talking about. In my case, I think there's a very strong case for returning me to the council, because I think I've been one of the most effective voices for a sustainable, livable city in terms of promoting public transit, bike, pedestrian-oriented land uses, really making this city the kind of green city everybody talks about. We're actually doing it. And I think I've been very effective also at bridging a lot of the dissension that we've seen on the council. So I think the last person you want to kick off the council is the one person who can bridge the divides that exist. I can't speak to the other races. Each district needs to make up their own mind, but I'm very proud of my record. We've had utility rates below the rate of inflation, notwithstanding some of the recent controversy. We are now the top city in California for bike commuting. We're doing a lot of things right. Thank you.
Sean? I'm mixing up the order.
You're mixing it up, which threw me off. I was all excited about going last. I've been active in the city for 13 years. I walked precincts with Steve Cohn in his last election period. And,
true.
you know, Steve has done a good job in working with us in MEA locally. At the same time, I've been dealing with the same issues for 13 years. I still have issues with residential impacts from commercial districts in my area immediately. We're still struggling with empty historic buildings that are not being used properly. We're still struggling with partisan and personal agendas on city council. And I don't care who you are on city council, you're all responsible for the behavior of your fellow council members. It is up to our city government to run efficiently and be good stewards with our resources. And if you think they've actually been good stewards of our resources, then vote in the incumbents again. You always do what you've always done, you always get what you always got, and right now, what we've got is not okay. Despite the economic situation that we're in, the behavior on city council is unacceptable, and people need to stand up and put a stop to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
All right, first I'd like to thank Steve for his 16 years of service. He's worked hard in his 16 years. In his opening statement, he said something about politics not being a career. In my view, at 16 years, it has become a career. And so I think right now we're in tough times, and we need to look in different directions, look at things differently, and come up with newer approaches to solving problems. Going back to common sense approaches, not buying land in a rail yard with an unknown value at one point in time. We need things that are, I wouldn't advise a client in my business to purchase a property without knowing the value of it, and I wouldn't do that as a city council member. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jeff?
Yeah, well, why should there be a new council member? There's 9,500 businesses closed last year. The Midtown area where I live doesn't have a video store anymore. The Blockbuster just left. But we can go down the road and get porn videos. The Hard Rock Cafe left. How are you going to attract young people to the city with nothing to do here besides Second Saturday? We've got, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, we've got the 5th highest unemployment in large metro areas. Other cities, if they have lower unemployment than us, we're doing something wrong. They're doing something right in terms of bringing jobs to our city so that we collect the revenue, the tax revenue, and get people back into homes so we have the money to spend on parks and roads and schools and police and fire. So I would say that's why.
Thank you. Cosmo, could you direct a question to Chris, please?
Yeah, Chris, do you believe that the city needs a strong mayor form of governance as the current mayor has proposed? If you do, why? And what's the appropriate mechanism for any charter reform? Is it a deal that's going to be struck on the city council? Is it a formal charter commission? How should we go about doing that?
Okay, thank you for the question. The strong mayor, in my view, the strong mayor proposal that was put forward was not done transparently and was not appropriate. I would say that we can always and should always in a democracy always look at our forms of government and seeing if there are ways to review and improve what we do, including the structure of our government. I do believe that the best way to do it would be not through some deal on the city council and the council members, but through an open charter commission that incorporates as many neighborhoods and people around this city as possible so that we have a good dialogue about what it is people want. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff?
Yeah, I think the strong mayor puts too much power in the hands of one person. It becomes a cult of personality. And I've looked at some statistics, and I think strong manager is a way to go. We can look at that, or keep the council as it is right now. And I had something else, but I forgot what I was going to say. Never mind. That's it. Sorry.
Thank you. Steve?
Well, I do not support the strong mayor initiative that the mayor circulate for petitions, and I think it's appropriate that the courts determine that that process was not the right one when you make that kind of wholesale change. The problem was very simple. It vested too much power in the executive without adequate checks and balances. You had the mayor with the power to hire and fire virtually all city supervisors and above, plus approve all checks. Frankly, that would have been Chicago style. But we do need charter change. And frankly, a city manager, a bureaucrat, is not the right person to lead this city into the future. We need a city manager that reports to the mayor and the council. So I think we need to move from a strong mayor, or excuse me, a council manager to a mayor-council form of governance, along with some other changes. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sean?
Thank you. And thank you, Cosmo, for that question. First statement is I despise paid-for signature gatherers. I think the paid-for signature gathering is against everything that this country was built on in democracy, and so I will not support anything that comes to the ballot under that guise. At the same time, I also want to say that you don't need a charter to have a strong mayor or a strong leader. Strong leaders are not created by legislation. Additionally, based on what I've seen through City Hall and City Council for the last several years, I believe we need that executive type of situation. And blankly, I'm supportive of a future SMI2 or SMI Light, I think, as even Cosmo has called it in the future. And so I'm supportive of, and look forward to seeing what that can look like. Additionally, the council and the community need to be a part of this. And the bureaucracy that's there now is not working. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
I think he
We've
already.
gone through the cycle.
Oh, we have, oh dear, I knew I was getting mixed up. Okay, and who, what panelist is up? Jim, okay. Jim, will you direct the first question to Sean?
Thanks, Sean. The budget released yesterday by the city said they were going to seek $5.6 million in labor concessions from city employees. There's also been a statewide issue about pension and benefit costs, and these have been rising throughout California and in the local level. Do you think that these kinds of concessions on the part of city workers is part of the budget solution?
Short answer, yes. We only have X amount of money in the budget right now. And we all have a choice as employees, union employees, non-union employees, et cetera, as we have a choice. We can either, lose our jobs unwillingly, or we can willingly participate in negotiations that would, take a salary cut. I hate to even mention the word furloughs, as my wife's in the audience, and that's a bad word in our household. But at the same time, I think that most of those employees would rather either take a cut of pay or take a furlough than to be fired completely and laid off totally. The relationship amongst the union workers in our city has been tenuous at best, and part of strong leadership in our city is building those relationships of trust that you can sit down with a union like 39 and say, we don't have the money this year, we don't have the money next year, but we're going to have the money later down the road. Pension reform needs to happen. It shouldn't happen in a down year like this. It's a bad time to sit down and negotiate with people when you have no money for long-term pensions. Stop.
And now I go to Chris.
All right. I think that concessions, certainly your question was about concessions. I think we have to view everything needs to be on the table when it comes to dealing with a budget shortfall. There's nothing that shouldn't be viewed, nothing that shouldn't be considered. Obviously, we try to maintain as many services as we can in the city, and it's going to be painful for everybody. It is painful right now economically for everybody, and we're all sharing in this, and at some point we all have to continue to work together, make sure that we can continue to provide the city services, but we have to share in the pain, and that may mean that those folks in labor will have to step forward and accept a portion of that as well.
Thank you. Jeff?
Yeah, most of our costs are in personnel or employees and labor. I believe that businesses do make cuts themselves. I've had my benefits cut before, as they become more expensive. And, I had to go up in a next tier to keep the same benefits that I had prior to the cuts. I believe special interests also are involved. The unions, the labor unions that are involved in the city are involved in swaying or influencing, city council by helping elect officials with money, and which was part of the problem. What we need to do really is focus on it, bringing jobs to Sacramento, like I said in my opening statement, because then next year we won't have to make these cuts to people's to benefits, future benefits or pension plans. Attract the jobs like other cities are doing, and we won't face this problem next year.
Thank you. Steve?
Well, the city manager's budget reveals a $43 million gap and a $360 million general fund budget. So these are unprecedented times. They require extraordinary measures. And one of those measures is going to have to be labor concessions. Now, fire and police have already stepped up and agreed to 5% cuts this past year. And by the way, I'm taking a 5% cut. I haven't talked about it, but I am. And it's time for other city employees, non-public safety, to step up as well. So that has to be part of it. That's not the only way we're going to close this budget. The city manager proposes a whole array of different service cuts, but also possible revenue sources. We talked about one, which was the medicinal marijuana tax. Other ideas that we're looking at are ways that we can actually reduce city resident taxes, but raise taxes on people who come into the city during the day. Thank you.
Pia, can you direct your question to Jeff, please?
Jeff, does Sacramento need a new sports and entertainment arena? And if yes, why, where, and how would you pay for it? And if no, why not?
I assume you're talking about the arena that might probably have put in downtown, and I believe we should have one. I like the idea. I live in Midtown. I think it'll attract businesses to the area. It'll bring in residents and visitors to the area, and we need the revenue and to revitalize downtown, the downtown area. I believe we should have more sports fields also just outside of the arena itself. I run a sports group, and I believe we need more. We're running out of space here for stuff like ultimate frisbee that we play, volleyball, soccer, these kinds of things. We're competing in other areas with other teams and leagues for space, and Sacramento should, on top of the arena, put in, I would like to see a large sports field complex out near the arena if it's put in.
Thank you. Steve?
Well, arts, culture, sports are important cogs of what makes a city a great city. And so we do need an arena. What's wrong with the existing one? Frankly, for most purposes, not much. The NBA is the one that seems to have a real problem with it. It is true, though, that out in Natomas, where it's located, doesn't offer much added value to the city. So if we are going to build a new arena, I do favor doing it downtown, but without taxpayer funds. The convergence proposal purports to do that. You can rely on me to look at that very carefully. After all, I oppose Measure Q&R, and I opposed the $73 million loan to the Kings years ago. So you know where I stand when times are tough. And believe me, there's no issue you'll ever face on the council where people get in your face and talk to you in the supermarket the way they do on an arena.
Thank you. Sean?
We all know Steve wants the A's here in Sacramento really
I
bad.
do
So
like
I, on the other hand, am a Kings fan, and I think that having an NBA team, a professional sports team in the city of Sacramento is not only a benefactor globally for the city of Sacramento, but as well as Sacramento spirit and those types of things. The convergence plan, to me, is the only plan that we've seen that doesn't use taxpayer dollars, has a funding mechanism, and then on a selfish note, for District 3, it would develop that Cal Expo land, and that neighborhood needs the infusion of some new life there, not to mention the job count that it would bring. I mean, this is a very complicated issue. That convergence has a lot of factors to it, and it's going to take a lot of oversight on everybody's part. That, yes, it'll cost a little bit of staff time and money on the city's part, but very little in comparison to all the other plans that have taxes or fees assessed to them. So I support the project. It's a great catalyst for the rail yard development as well. Stop.
And to Chris?
Well, I don't support the convergence. The land swap proposal. I think it's too complicated. I think right now the city of Sacramento is faced with $43 million in deficit. I think we need to look at doing things. There's some complexity in dealing with that alone. We need to focus on things in our community that we can get done in a timely and efficient manner so that we can make things happen economically. I would say the Kings, of course, are an exciting team to watch, particularly this year, and congratulations to Tyreek for his becoming Rookie of the Year, and I think that's exciting things ahead for the Kings. Having said that, I don't want to see any public funding going into an arena, nor do I feel that until the current loan has been repaid that there would be should be any activity with the arena for the city.
Thank you. And Cosmo, I think we have time for one more question, and hopefully our candidates will be a little shorter than longer so that we can finish right on time. But will you direct it to Steve, please?
Steve, the mayor is preparing to launch a new green initiative as his sort of signature initiative this year. I'm assuming you support that. If you don't, please let me know. But what should be in that plan? What should be part of the city's green initiative?
Well, I'm glad this question was asked. Of course I support it, and I think it's great that the mayor chose this initiative to be his focused single initiative for this year, because I think he's got a lot of initiatives, but we got to do some focus on some particular ones. He's tapped me to head up the committee dealing with land use, transportation, and that's an area I feel very strongly about, where we can have a more livable and green city while still enjoying economic growth and development. Witness what we're doing at 65th Street next to Sac State, as well as what we're trying to do in the Central City, what we have done Midtown. Streetcars fit into that as well. But also on the job side, we have a very exciting opportunity to create a clean tech sector. Green jobs grew by 38% during this recession, when every other job sector was going down. That was the highest of any city in California. We can do a lot more with that. Thank you.
Jeff?
Yeah, I need a little more information on the green initiative, and I'm interested in attracting employers here in the science, technology, and health sectors, and I know that other cities have put in green industrial or science zones, parks, I would say, for business to go to that were environmentally friendly. I would support that. Other than that, I need more information to answer better, but that's it.
Hey, Chris?
Well, thank you. In my view, there are certain areas that the city can start to make some inroads in. A lot of what's coming down in terms of the green initiatives are coming down from the federal level and from the state level, and requirements on energy efficiency and so on. So it's a matter of having to be on board with that. We don't really have a choice. We have to be on board with it, and it is the right thing to do. One of the things that I think we can really take a look at is the existing or the new home construction and commercial construction has done a great job of, and the building codes are focused on all of this kind of green and greening. We need to look to perhaps the existing housing stock as another area where we might be able to go and create more greening and more efficiencies and more energy efficiency. And that's where I think we might have an avenue where we could push some of that energy.
Thank you. Sean?
I haven't read the mayor's green initiative yet. It's fresh and hot off the presses, so I can't answer your question directly as to whether or not I support it or don't support it. Green initiatives are controversial across the state. In some cases, they actually, stunt the growth of construction in some areas. It makes it more expensive to build, in which case it can actually stifle some construction in some cases. So I would be very interested in the exact details of the initiative. However, I know the mayor's intentions pretty well, and they are to bring jobs to the city of Sacramento. So if this green initiative actually creates more focus on bringing federal dollars and funds into the city to create, green jobs and green projects, then I would be in favor of that. So without actually seeing the details of the initiative, I couldn't exactly answer that question perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. And that closes the question and answer portion of this forum, and now we're going to be moving to closing statements. And our first closing statement will be given by Jeff Rainforth.
Thank you. This election is about jobs. The more people working and spending means the more revenue the city takes in to provide goods and services such as parks and roads. We must look at what other cities and states have done to attract employers, such as using company income tax credits in Indiana, below market real estate in Huntsville, Alabama, and Oklahoma City's strategic investment program that provides cash incentives to new companies that hire at least 50 employees in the area. We must reduce the influence of special interest in City Hall. I believe that they help candidates get elected with the hopes of benefiting financially. I have taken no special interest money. I've used my own money and my time off, my vacation time to run my campaign. No one is pulling my purse strings. We must eliminate government waste in the form of duplication, redundancy, department overlap in order to do more with what we have now. Overall, though, we must put people back to work so that the city and county increase their revenue so that we can fund our roads, our parks, and our schools instead of making cuts. My website is at jeffrainforth.com. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next closing statement will be provided by Chris Little.
Thank you for watching and listening. I'm Chris Little, and I want to be your next council member. My vision is to renew Sacramento using fresh ideas and common sense solutions. The challenges we face as a community make it very important that decisions we make actually make sense. The looming city budget shortfalls require us as a city to decide what our core values are and make the tough decisions accordingly. As an independent business owner, I have the experience and ability to lead our district forward. As a real estate professional, I know how important great schools and safe streets are to each of us in our neighborhoods. As a community volunteer, I value involvement in activities that better our neighborhoods, schools, parks, and overall quality of life. Join me in making our neighborhoods safer and our city more vibrant with a bold, common sense approach for Sacramento's future. I'm Chris Little. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your vote.
Thank you. Our next closing statement will be provided by Sean Eldridge.
If you're going to vote safe and conservative, and as you're not going to vote for me. However, if you look at your city and how it's been run for the last 15 plus years, and you don't agree with that, then don't vote for an incumbent. Don't vote for any incumbent. This is our power as residents and members of a democracy, is our vote. That's all we have. And if we continue to vote for politicians who, as Jeff said, are funded by special interest groups, then we're going to continue to get what we've gotten. And I think we're coming to an impasse. I think it's coming to a time where we have no choice but to either make a change or see our government and our economies continue to crash. I mean, the things that we see at City Council, the infighting is disgraceful. This is about human beings. Our founding fathers fought for things that affected their families, their business, their children. It's not about politics. It's not about Democrats and Republicans. It's about human beings, children, lives, women, children, the whole bit. Please do not vote for an incumbent. Make a difference. Thanks.
Thank you. And our final closing statement will be provided by Steve Cohn.
As your councilman, I've been guided by a conservation ethic, using our limited public resources wisely and efficiently to improve our quality of life. We need leaders now more than ever who don't allow the politics of the moment to distract us from the long-term challenges facing our city. I've earned the reputation as one such leader, winning endorsements from Sacramento police officers, firefighters, business and labor leaders, elected officials from both sides of the aisle, including Congresswoman Doris Matsui and former Congressman Doug Ossie, State Senator Darrell Steinberg, and County Supervisor Susan Peters, Sheriff John McGinnis, former Mayor Jimmy Yee, and most of my council colleagues. I'm also out walking precincts in every corner of the district, from East Sac to North Sac and Midtown to the county line. I want to work with you to make Sacramento the most livable city in America. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of the League of Women Voters and the Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Television Commission, I'd like to thank our candidates, Jeff Rainforth, Chris Little, Sean Eldridge, and Steve Cohn. And our panelists, Cosmo Garvin, Jim Cox, and Pia Lopez. And to our volunteers, And to our audience here at home, thank you for joining us for this Candidates Forum. The League of Women Voters encourages you to learn as much as you can about the candidates and ballot measures facing California voters on the June 8th ballot. 2 websites that you can check for more information are smartvoter.org and the League's website, LWVsacramento.org. This candidate forum will be rebroadcast on Metro Cable Channel 14. Visit sacramentocable.tv for the schedule. Please remember to vote on Tuesday, June 8th, and help make our democracy work. Thank you and good afternoon.